Welcome to the Tuka Talks show, where Tuka Tech founder Ram Serene talks to fellow fashion industry experts about the trending topics of today, the history of the apparel business, and the paradigm shifts that will transform the industry for the future.
Greetings from Tuka Talks. It really is a historic day today. So here's a hint. They call him the Godfather of denim, Adriano Goldschmidt.
First of all, thank you very much for the amazing present, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you and to talk to your audience.
Thank you. You know, this platform, Tuka Talks, is strictly designed to promote knowledge. It is not a platform to promote a company or a product or a sale. It's strictly a knowledge share. And as I'm getting older and older, I feel everybody talks about Google this and get the information. Yes, internet is full of information. But do they have the knowledge, the experience? And that's where people like you come in, who have been there, done that, know what the mistakes were, and they corrected it. In the local term of startup businesses, they all talk about fail early, and pivot to the new business model. Question now is, why fail? Why not learn from legends like you? How many brands have you developed over your lifetime?
Yeah, probably they talk about 56 different brands,
Brands like Diesel,
like Diesel, like Goldie, like A.G. Adriano Goldschmidt. I did the Gap 1969, Citizen, Gold Sign, and many, many other. Some of them I was the owner of those brands, but also I have amazing experience in designing for other brands. For instance, I did Chloe in Paris. I am doing brands in China, in Europe, all over the world. Honestly, an amazing experience. And I think that you are totally right to say that knowledge is the engine of humanity. Sometimes when I hear about talking about artificial intelligence, I feel like we should go back sometime to the normal intelligence that in some way is what belongs to us.
absolutely, absolutely. And whoever wrote the intelligence or artificial intelligence or the machine learning, they had people with a lot of knowledge to put that information in there. Fashion is not something one can say, let me get that feedback from internet. As creativity. The most creative business is fashion business. How do you know that this is a brand that people must have? How do you develop that? Where people want to have that brand, that name.
It is a good question because honestly, probably I'm not able to answer. Means that creating a brand is something that is coming from your heart in some way, more than a lot of thinking. It is about try to understand what the future is going to be in every area. I mean, can be architecture, can be fashion, design, social, and let's say I try to make an interpretation what I think is happening in the future, and I try to create something that is going to be the object of desire from the consumer. And let's say the good part of this is that it's not about numbers, it's not about an Excel. It's something that has to come by itself from your spirit, from what you think that is going to happen in the next future. So it means that you have to keep an eye, a lot of attention to everything. Can be a movie, can be a political events, can be whatever, a design, product, interior design, all together is transforming into a direction. And when you have this direction, you have to fight for. Don't go all over the place. I learned in my experience that people is available for one idea, one at a time. If you put too many ideas together, you just get them confused. So what is important that the brand has one message.
Wonderful. Denim, prior to guys like you, it was work clothing. Levi's and H.D. Lee, the founders of the denim, so to speak, so much creativity went in. Why so much creativity in denim?
We all know the history of denim is, we talk about 1.5 century today. Levi's, by the way, is celebrating this year the 150th anniversary of 501. Why that long? Because denim is a fabric that very different from any other fabric, because has a life. Means for me, denim is like a white canvas. You can do whatever you want. Means you have many, many ways, first of all, to make the denim. Denim is not only about cotton, it's also about many other fibers and innovations that we bring into the construction of the fabric. Don't forget also a very important factor that denim is fading down. Means that when you wear it, is in some way taking part of your personality, is taking your model, is taking your body, and it's not by accident that when you open your closet to clean it, you never throw away your beloved denim, because it's something that is connected to your love, your college, good experience, and so you like to keep it. And that's why, in some way, denim is, in my opinion, a fabric that is changing itself all the time and is all the time new and appealing to the people.
There are a lot of denim brands over the years. What is the secret of creating a denim brand from scratch? And who else would know better than a person who's done 56 different brands? What goes into creativity? Don't you get tired?
No, absolutely not. Let's say all the time that I go to work, for me is like the first day of work.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I cannot wait to start working and create something. Humanity is moving, means evolving, and denim is part of this evolution in some way. That's why all the time we are able to create a new product, because the new product is in interpretation of the need of the people. And that's why the eternal life of denim. Just to make an example, denim was a rigid fabric. Then we invented the stretch, creating totally a new category of products. Denim was a main product because originally was a uniform of the workers.
Work clothes.
Today is in the runways. So you understand that the journey of denim is incredible in
Sure.
some ways. Any other fabric that has a journey like that.
Do you feel denim market is individual person's choice, or are you trying to push your idea to certain group of people? There are so many price ranges of this product, and they're all making denim, anywhere from $30 jeans to $1,000 jeans. How do you decide what should be the price at the retail level?
First of all, you're right that you mentioned groups. I never design for one person or having as a target or in my inspiration one person, but is mostly a group. This one is very important because basically thinking about a group, basically we create a market. Basically we create the way that a certain product or a certain brand can make money because we are thinking to a product that has a certain diffusion. Means, just to give you an idea, if we are thinking about the young generation, of course, we have to think about what the young generation is, and we have to create a price point that is affordable for the young generation. If we design for a sophisticated lady, basically, in some way, we don't have limits because a lady today, for instance, can buy a $4,000 blazer from Yves Saint Laurent and wear a jean under.
Of course.
You know, what I think is important, I said one idea, and this idea has to fit to the group that you are targeting. You know, this one is in some way probably the secret of making a successful brand. You don't have to be right for everybody because when you are right for everybody means you don't mean anything for anybody.
Correct.
You know, means that you have to target a certain identity and be important, you know, for that group. At that point, that group recognize your product and they buy the product.
Wonderful answer from finding a demographic, whether it is age group or financial beings for your market size. Question now is, how do I know that will work? In your designing over the years, would you say that you've been wrong a few times?
Yes.
Okay. What advice would you give to the people what to look for? Because I believe the experience is defined by the number of mistakes we have made. We learned from those mistakes. Of course, it cost us a lot of money to make those mistakes, but then we learned what not to do. Learning what not to do, I call that experience. And the young people, they look for somebody to tell them what not to do.
Of course, experience is very important, but you don't have to forget that a certain experience is connected to a certain time, to a certain condition, and so it's not really valid by itself. The experience that I did, 20 years ago, is something that you have in your brain, But if you apply that formula today, you are a loser. The reality is that you have to follow your idea, try not to make mistake, but to be very determined in finding your way and defend your idea. What I'm saying is, if you listen too much, you are lost.
Wonderful. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, means have an idea and fight for that. Then at the end, you're gonna go and you're gonna learn if you are a winner or if you are a loser. If you are a loser, it's better than be a winner because you increase your knowledge.
Correct. You have to believe in your idea. Almost like having a conviction about this and not getting swayed by outside influence. Because the moment you're not 100% sold, it will show that you're not 100% sold on this idea. But when you believe in your own product and when you believe in your journey, they will walk with you. They'll get to that. But very few people do that. They're so uncertain about maybe, maybe not, maybe, maybe not, maybe, maybe not. So are you saying that you need to determine yourself and then set your own path?
Yes. Let's say one thing that, at least in the way that I work, because everybody at the end probably works in a different way. I have two very different steps. The first step is to get information, to get knowledge, to get the test, to see the experience of other people, to talk to people. And that is the base where basically at a certain point you squeeze the information that you have and you come with a certain idea. At that point, when you have your idea, you have to throw away all what you did and fight for that. And you don't have to listen anymore to anybody. The first step, you listen, but this one is collecting information, not that you change your project. That is very different, So there are two steps that they are in some way very different.
Wouldn't that be what we call market research or listening to what market needs?
Not in the traditional way.
No.
Because I know what today is market research is a kind of numeric kind of thing. You have guys making research, 60% they say that, 33%.
No, I didn't mean that. You mentioned something very interesting. Listening first, listening and gathering data, and then making your decision. But when you're listening, you're actually listening based on what your image is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll share something with you.
Yeah.
When I started Tukatech, at that time, a CAD workstation used to sell between $35,000 to $50,000, which was a lot of money. And it came with nothing except the buyer had to have a very high-priced designer sit down up to 2 months, 3 months to sit down and learn, and then the designer would leave. So they would invest a lot of money on pattern making on the computer. So what happened? They stopped. They said, you know what? I'd rather let them make paper patterns. And my idea was that why wouldn't I have a computer in front of every pattern maker, because that is the future.
Yeah.
They are going to be making patterns on the computer. So I went around with that thought to a lot of my friends in the industry that when you hire, why not have a computer? So I don't want it. Why? Because it's too expensive. Okay? But it's not just expensive. I'm not certain or guaranteed results. So what would it take? I asked. And almost every one of them gave me the same answer. Give me the hardware, the software, the training, whatever the hell I need. Make it happen. I'll give you $10,000. I wouldn't even think about assign the check for $10,000 per operator. So that was my starting point. I work backwards now. How many can I sell? How do I make a product and get that for $10,000? At the end of the day, it's a two-way street. Your success is only measured by somebody saying, wonderful product, or somebody saying, I want it. Somebody's coming to buy from you rather than you pushing it.
Yeah.
Hey, this is $14.99. Anybody can sell for $14.99. But to sell that for $200 jeans and they stand in line to buy your jeans, that is building a brand.
No, totally right. Totally right. Basically, you have to create the desire from the consumer to have your gene. You know, basically, let's say it is also a subject that today in the industry, and not only in the industry, we are discussing. You know, because on one side, our job is to design new product, but when you have the whole picture, we don't need new product. Means that we have to create a product that has a longer life. You know, we have to consider the impact that making new product is having on the planet, and so it's very controversial thing because I think that the approach of the product is different. In the past, the idea was every season you have to come with something. Now, in my opinion, the timing is coming much longer in terms that you have to create a product that stay in your closet much longer, can be more expensive because having a longer life, at the end you spend less money, you know. But let's say mentality today is changing and we have to be ready for that.
There is a market for many segments, so to speak. And the influencers today are really defining the trends. You and I may not even like some of the stuff that I see influencers wearing it. Those kind of trends are very hard to maintain for 4, 5, 6 years. The torn jeans with destruction or cut out squares and make a bell bottom with fraying at every corner. How long do you think that trend will last? I strongly believe that thing is not going to happen for somebody to wear for 3 years or 5 years or something.
Oh, you're right. Fact is that, let's say, our generation was all about the product. You know, our goal all the time was to create a beautiful product in the right trend, making consumer happy, and with the right quality, with the right price. The fact is that today the world is changing and the communication and the image of the product is coming like a part of the product. So you cannot design a product that if you don't already know how you're going to present that product to the public. That honestly, it is something that is part already today of our project. Means you design a certain project and a product, and then you create in the same time also the way that you're going to communicate, and you like it or you don't, but today the communication is part of the success
Absolutely.
of the brand.
Absolutely.
And so it's part of the design.
But there are, beside this, there are also manufacturability. Can I manufacture when the demand goes up to fulfill the demand? What I'm going to show you here of this movie star, what do you think is going to be the life of this garment?
Long, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. Long because I think this consumer 3 times in a year is going to wear it.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So the function on an item like this is to be special one night or one day. It's not something that you wear every day, right?
This is one of a kinds.
Yeah.
This guy is my client. He's making $1,000 jeans in India.
The good thing of
Every
the jean
movie
market,
star wears his garments. He measures everybody. But I tell you something, honestly, he's still struggling. He's like a designer who could not fulfill and get it to the people in massive way. So he sold maybe 50 garments
you
or
don't
30
need it.
garments, 100 garments.
you don't need to. This one is $1,000 jean. It's enough that you sell 1,000 pieces. It's already a gigantic business. So a product like that doesn't need to go to the mass. Needs to go to the right consumer. Can be an actor, can be a movie star, can be a singer, can be somebody that has a special life. So you understand that your marketing project is very different according what you're designing and the nature of the product. I don't think this guy is thinking to sell 100,000 units.
Of course not.
Of course, he's not even able to make it.
That's correct.
You
That
know?
is correct.
So the beauty of our market is that you go from there to a jean that is $9.99, you know. And that's the beauty of our business.
So what you're saying is this will never be sold in Walmart. I'm just
hope not.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But you're right. He doesn't have to sell too many, and he has to create. So this becomes almost like a very individual product, but not in the mainstream market.
Yeah, but don't forget one thing. Obviously, we have to go case by case. But this one is a $1,000 jean. You know our business enough. You can make a jean very similar to that and sell it for $50. Okay? Obviously, it's a gamble, but maybe for $50, you have much bigger range of people that like to be like the movie star or like to be like a singer or a celebrity. You never know. Probably it's never going to be on Walmart, but maybe it could be a Target.
No, you are 100% on how do you capture the trend or how do you capture a hot item, but it's a gamble.
It is a gamble, but it's the beauty of our business. When you've been asking me, how do I know that a brand is successful or not? I don't. I gamble. So the thing is, at the end, I hope to be a good player. The balance in my life probably have more success than failures, you know.
What has been your biggest mistake?
I'm good friend of the owner of Diesel. That was my partner when we started Diesel. And all the time that we get together, he's making fun of me, saying, listen, I did one brand in my life, and you did 55, you know, saying, look what I did. In some way, he's right. Because
He's a multi-billionaire.
Yeah, a multi-billionaire today. My answer to him, listen, I don't care so much about billions, but I had much more fun of what you did. So depends what the goals of your life are,
Wonderful.
you know.
It's all about passion.
Exactly.
And anybody who has ever met you, anybody, has said nothing but the most passionate designer. That's what they call you. I don't know why they give you Godfather. Godfather is really Not a very good term when it comes to mafia, but if you really look at it from the Christianity and the way we say, after me, you can take care of my family or you can take care of my children. You're the godfather of my children, and so on. That is a very um, honorable title, so to speak. And when they say godfather of denim, yes, not too many people can say the number of brands or number of products or
Yeah.
number of styles, the number of things that you've done, whether it's the fabrics or the look or the touch or the feel or the wash or the brand fit or the look of any other thing that one can think of. What has been your most favorite one?
Probably Daily Blue. Daily Blue is the brand that I started in the 74, and consider that at that time denim was still a workwear uniform, and Daily Blue was changing the game completely because we was expensive and super fashion. So we opened the way to the designer jeans, to an area that today is huge. All the other brands, obviously, a part of my heart is in each of the brands that I did. But the first one is a little bit like the first love that you never forget.
Of course. I hear that you're launching it again.
I launching again because I remember very well the spirit of that time, the enthusiasm. I came into this business without knowing absolutely anything, but I have a very clear idea what the customer at that time was looking for. And so I like to repeat in some way that spirit, considering that I think is a very positive time right now because we are coming from a time that for decades was dominated from one style. That in some way was very boring. Everybody was selling skinny jeans. Everybody was selling a bootcut. 10 years of the bootcut, 10 years of
Bell bottoms and 10
yeah,
years, 10 years,
okay.
yeah.
Today is very different because is very also very positive in some way because there are many different fits that are working well in the market. And the first time that, in my opinion, the consumer is has more power than the producer. The producer was imposing a certain style to the market. Today is the other way. It's a consumer that is more independent and they buy what they like, what is good for their body and what is good for the style life that they have. So Daily Blue is coming back to the market and try to make an interpretation of this need. It is also something that probably is affecting your business because doing many styles is about flexibility.
Sure.
You know, flexibility is a digital work.
Yes. I think more and more focus is going to be making as many new styles as possible for as many new sizes or people as possible and sell direct to the end user. So you cut out all the noise. They tell you what they want. You give them what they want. Your cost may be a little higher, but your margin will be way more higher because there's nobody else in between. Okay. What is your opinion on that business model?
It is amazing. It is amazing for let's say my generation was about one fashion street in a city, you know, Basically, we had the rich people going to, I don't know, Via Monte Napoleone in Milan and buying, and fashion was limited basically to that street. Now we have the world. It's no difference today from somebody sitting on a computer in Uganda or in New York or in Norway. And so fashion is becoming much more democratic. And jeans, by the way, it is a democratic item. So the fact that we are able to talk to the whole world is amazing. This one doesn't mean that regular retail has to disappear, but needs to have more motivation. If I'm sitting here and I can select whatever I want, is fine. But at a certain point, I need to go shopping, have an emotion, talk to somebody. The computer, you cannot talk. It's not giving to you an answer or an opinion. Talking to qualified people in a store, I think, is important.
Why did we have all these American designers about 40 years ago going to Europe to all these specialty stores and buying samples? Not samples. They were picking up the styles that they feel that they can get inspiration from. They called it inspiration. I call it knocking off those styles.
Yeah. You have to be the right man.
I know. I mean, I was in the manufacturing. We remember the designer would come back 4 times, 5 times a year, spending $100,000 in buying the clothes. And we had to be so meticulous to take the entire garment apart, stitch by stitch, iron it out, trace it on a piece of paper, find the notches and find the seam allowances, and then take those patterns and they will give the new fabric and we cut that. And then she says, make it 2 inches longer. And all of a sudden it's now her design. So design was always from specialty stores. These people who owned these boutiques, who owned these specialty stores, had an amazing, amazing insight of their customers, what they want.
Yeah.
Do you believe we are going to go back to the same, but in a little bigger way?
I don't know if it is any bigger way, but for sure, the function of the independent store is very, very important. Also because an independent store has an owner, has a buyer that has a certain personality, that is buying many different brands, is merchandising the brands in a way that is probably very different from any other.
Department store, maybe.
Yeah, from department store. Obviously, department store is more oriented to the business, to the mass, but at the end, the function of the independent store is to give a direction to the market. It's not by accident that the buyer of Nordstrom goes shopping to see what the independent stores are doing, and they get good inspiration and good ideas. So let's say there are 2 different worlds that they need to live together.
But for the last 35 or 40 years that I've seen, this has become a 4-segmented business where California fashion people would come up with 300 to 500 new styles every month. They go to the market. They sell 360 and 480 pieces of each style. Those items are being sold for $99 or $199 range. But what happens to 500 styles? I only got orders for 300. But out of the 300, maybe 50 of them really did extremely well with the retailers, with the small retailers. And those 50 are now going to be produced by the next tier of manufacture, the retailers who are going to buy 10,000 each, but at $69. And then they did 4 of them good, and the next tier comes in the real discounter $39 garment, and they're going to buy 100,000 of those. By that time, they have killed, but they have learned the market, and they have milked it every angle they can. I don't think fashion is available at $39. I think the fashion is available at $199 or $299 or $999, depending on what street you're on. Because whoever gave you at those prices, they really put some amazing either stitch detail or the fabric detail or the styling. We did not dilute that style. We did not create that look. Look at this. There are people out there who've been making this digital printing of these garments. Yeah? Why? Because it costs a lot of money. I'm better off just digitally printing it. Printing these shoes digitally, right? Printing clothes, artwork, rather than putting the things up there. This is not going to take away the market of people who really want to touch and feel. I even have something that I wanted to show here. Guys, this is not a tattoo. This is a sleeve. I can take it off, okay? For 99 cents, I'm having fun with this. These people are not going to take away the tattoo artist who's doing all these jobs. Designers must stay focused on creating something new and not worry about all these disruptions. Am I right or wrong?
I think you are wrong. I think you are wrong because fashion is also about having fun. And it's not only about wearing a 5-pocket jean, even if it is a good fit, a good quality, whatever. I think fashion is something that has to create an emotion, and you have to be able to create an emotion even with kind of stupid things like that, I think it's part of the game. You need that. You need also something that is, call it more serious, but you have to keep room for the creativity, for make people happy. Because fashion, at the end, in my opinion, has to make people happy. A girl or a guy going out to a dinner, they go to the mirror and they have to like themselves. That is a fashion function in some way.
So in your opinion, to create a look at a right price, whether it lasts a longer time or no, is okay?
No, because honestly, I don't think the price is really the point. Because, let's say, obviously, certain kind of things are expensive.
Adriano, if this one was $10, I would have never paid it.
Yeah,
This one was $1.
you buy 10.
I did.
Yeah,
I even bought this kind, that kind, just
sure.
to have fun, to tease my grandchildren, okay? But that's about it. But I do it once. That's it. I can afford to throw away $1.
yeah.
But I'm not going to pay.
Fashion doesn't have to be boring.
No, I understand that. But these are, then they are not fashion, they are novelty items. They created that for fun, and you did it. It's no different than creating a costume for St. Patrick's
Everything
Day.
is a different phase of fashion. Fashion is not one phase. If many.
Is it okay if I take my hat off?
Yeah, sure.
Don't mean to disrespect the Godfather, okay? Tell me, what is the advice that you will give to the next wannabe Godfather?
To follow what you have inside you. Don't be afraid. Fight for your personality, your identity, your project. Everybody. What is beautiful thing in the world, to dream. Okay? And the most beautiful thing that one day you turn around and you see that you've been able to make it happen, your dream.
To fulfill your dream.
Yeah. I think if I give an advice to a young generation, dream and make it happen.
What would you tell the older people? That they feel that they're on the right path and the rest everybody is stupid.
Let's say to the old people, in my opinion, is be connected with the world, with the young generation, with the new trends. It is something that makes that you feel still part of what is going on. You don't have to feel like that at a certain point you're becoming the trash of the humanity. You know, you still have a function that is teach what you know, have extend your knowledge to the other generation. And that is a beautiful thing.
Wonderful. There's so much to learn from the younger generation because we kind of get bored with our own ideas. And then we're encircling the same small world that we created, while this amazing imagination based on today's conditions with young people. I surround myself with the youngest possible people, and I want to listen to them. I want to laugh with them. Yeah. They make me more intelligent because I listen to them.
Yeah.
In our company, my one rule is not to say, I want you to do this. This needs to be done. What do you propose? What do you propose? Opens up a dialogue. They may have seen this side of it, and I'm seeing this side of it. And if I play the boss, then I will never see their point of view. But if we both share, both of us become stronger, okay? Yeah. So I think if I had to reword what you're saying, listen to the young people, use your knowledge, use your experience, put it all together. And that's a formula for success.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Adriano.
Thank you so much, Ram.
It's been always a pleasure. Always
an amazing
a pleasure.
Conversation.
You're a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this discussion presented by Tuca Talks. If you found something in this conversation insightful, we would love for you to click the share button and send this episode to a friend.